Hey guys, it's Julio Ricardo Varela. It is Juneteenth, June 19th. Another week of shows for Latino Rebels Radio Live, and like we always do, we want to present some of the clips of what you missed. So here are some of the best moments of this week's Latino Rebels Radio Live on Facebook, and we will be back next Tuesday. Enjoy, guys.
And here she is, Miriam Gorba. How are you?
I'm tired and hungry, and I'm here. Emotionally, the last couple weeks have been everything. It's been like spectacular to see the mobilization that's been happening internationally, and to see the scope of the mobilization, to see the passion that Gen Z is bringing to the streets, and that Black and brown people are bringing to the streets. The passion that I saw, right, and sort of the aliveness that I saw, and the hunger. Like, there was just this incredible hunger, and it was hunger for justice, you know? And so as that was gaining momentum, and I looked to the horizon, the moment that we are in now could be seen if a person was paying enough attention to marginalized folks. One could see that we were moving in this direction. And I started to think of like what was happening in terms of bricks, that we were each putting sort of a brick down in terms of social movement, and each of us has contributed like one of these bricks that's brought us to these mass uprisings. But BLM has done such an incredible amount of work, like the intellectual labor that has been done by queer Black women is spectacular.
It's spectacular, and I think people need to. I think we're beyond. You know, it's almost transformative. This whole notion of what it was and how it was slinged, right? How it started when Trayvon was killed, and also just how it's been discredited. You know, it's like with anything, it's like, let's tear it down. Like now, you know, I see people in my white suburban town in Massachusetts, like asking like, oh, I need a sign, you know, and I think like there's this struggle between like, is this authentic or is this appropriation? But
what I've noticed is this, that it's not so much that there are folks who were deeply, deeply unaware of injustices, who have suddenly had their eyes open. What I have noticed is that there have been a lot of folks sitting in quiet frustration, right? And a lot of folks exercising an incredible amount of restraint, who now have a sense of permission to express that, right? And to politicize that frustration, because so frequently we're told not to politicize emotion. But what is anger if not the most political emotion? Because it's also moral. So that's what I've seen more so.
You know, we're like Gen X, right? What are you, like late, early Gen X? Are you kind of like Gen X millennial?
So I'm Gen X, I think. I'm like,
all
right on
so
the set.
Yeah, so this is why I think we're hitting it off a little bit, because, you know, we are sort of that of that frustrated generation that, you know, grew up with LA riots and, you know, Rage Against the Machine and has sort of seen this before. So you're looking for people like you, and you're like, you're saying there's
me in that crowd, and I'm not seeing them. And the thing that I found really frustrating, but again unsurprising, was that I was looking for teachers. I was looking for teachers in that crowd, and I didn't see a single teacher. And I've taught at several schools in Long Beach. I've taught at 4 different schools, and I didn't see any faculty from anywhere that I've worked, which is incredibly frustrating, because if we're going to revolutionize this country, we need to do so systemically, and folks involved in education, in particular public education, need to be on board, or it's not going to happen. And I'm also incredibly frustrated with the rhetoric that the youth will save us. No, they fucking won't. They need help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And do we really want child martyrs in our country? No. You know what I mean? It's our collective responsibility to do this, those of us who can.
And at some point, something has to give, right? It like, you just can't keep removing from education and expect that people are just going to be like, oh yeah, no, police state, this is great. Yeah, let's. So all this questioning, right? All this, teachers, like, it's like schools as non-political spaces. That's what they have become in a lot of ways. How do we begin to turn that around, I guess? Because I feel like philosophically, right?
That a school is a politically neutral place and that a classroom is a politically neutral place is a sham. And consider those people who tell us that it is impolite to discuss money and that it's impolite to discuss how one voted, right? Why don't people want to share those things? Because they have something to hide, right? It's the wealthy who tell us that it's impolite to talk about money, and and it's a certain segment of the electorate that doesn't want to confess to how they voted. And the crazy thing is, when I was mentored by master teachers and told as a student teacher who would be teaching civics not to ever discuss race and not to ever share my political affiliations with my students, I wanted to laugh at the master teachers because I thought all the kids have to do is take one look at you and your shoes and they know how you vote. Yeah. Your shoes give it away. Like, who do you think you are that you're walking around neutral? I mean, to me, that is as ridiculous as racial colorblindness. Like, we belong to communities. You know what I mean? And there's there's that Mexican saying, show me who your friends are and you show me yourself. You know what I mean? If you know who your community is, I know who you are. You don't have to explain yourself to me. I don't have to get to know you as an individual. That's an American thing. You know what I mean? Like, you're not individual.
If I know who you hang with, I know who you are. Right. I just get to introduce my fabulous special correspondent friend, Melina Bobadilla. How are you?
Hi, Julio Ricardo Varela. I love multi-syllabic names.
I know. It's like Melina Bobadilla, Julio Ricardo Varela, Melina. Yeah, it's perfect.
Exactly. So welcome, Gali Fajardo Anstein. How are you?
I'm great. Hi, Melina. I also fancy you a friend.
We sound quite Victorian, don't we?
Yes.
It's a little Golden Girl humor.
Yes.
Let's go to that idea of your positionality. What's the social and political context that you've grown up in that has shaped you, and how are you responding to this moment in time with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a big question, and there's so many layers to unpack. But I think I'll start with just what was my driving impulse to write, and understanding that my family had faced generations of injustice. And I think that was something that I knew from the time I was a little girl, from witnessing, and also just from hearing the stories. And I knew I wanted to be a storyteller forever. That's just like, that was just in my DNA. And when I really started, reading lots of literature, I was in middle school and high school, and I was consuming all these books, and they were all written by white men. And I wasn't seeing the people that I had come from in Colorado in these books. And so I really started writing as a sort of, one, I was obsessed with craft and I loved literature, and I wanted to contribute and be part of the world of books. But two is like, I wanted to provide this sort of activism where I was going to center our lives as Chicanos from Colorado, from Southern Colorado, from Northern New Mexico, who are incredibly mixed, who have indigenous roots. I wanted to center those lives and put them into literature. And that's where my positionality came from, is that I became pretty radical in that, we have to be anti-racist if we're ever going to have the true breadth of what our artwork and our technology and our knowledge can provide. We have to start seeing every single human being as a full human being.
That's so beautiful. And I think that's one of the most powerful things for me as I've experienced your work, and really journeying honestly with your ancestors and with your the way that you capture memory and the way that you really root it not only in ancestors, in that spirit, but their connection to the land. So I've always found, in my experience reading your books, that the land that your family and your ancestors occupy, that are rather shaped and live in, is another character in your stories.
I'm a placed person. I'm a person who is embedded in the inception of the Southwest. My great grandmother's people were Pueblo people, from the Picaries Pueblo, and she was mixed, with European and Mexicano, but she came from the land base that I'm still in. I'm not that far away from it. So it was really, I wanted to make sure our connection to the land was visible and palpable. Mm-hmm. And so I think with my work, I'm trying to explore storytelling and I'm trying to write good literature, but I'm also trying to show you there's very ancient people that have been here for a very long time and we're still here.
I want to go back to this word, this idea of that mixture, right? Of being mixed. So talk about the way that you identify, because, I'm a Chicana from Los Angeles, born and raised here. And I know that our experiences are very different, but there's still something that is really unifying. So if you could just kind of like unpack how you assemble your identity, how you talk about it, and what that looks like being someone from Colorado.
Yeah, definitely. So I think that one of the earliest questions I would ever get when I was growing up, especially from Anglos, was, what are you?
What are you?
What are you? They would look at me and they would say, oh, this person's not.
Are you a tree?
Yeah, like, what is this person?
Yeah.
And so I was positioned early on to have to explain what I am.
Right.
And I had a lot of knowledge of what I was because I was still around my people. I'm still around them to this day. I am an incredible mixture of people, but I still grew up with a primary Latinx identity with our food and our storytelling. Mm-hmm. But I was not removed from the mixture and the mestizaje. I wasn't removed from it. And so I didn't really feel like when I was growing up, I didn't know that there was a lot of us who shared these similar characteristics. Because I think, we talk about divide and conquer. One of the things that happens with divide and conquer is, you can assimilate. You can force people to assimilate, and then they don't have access to each other anymore. And it's only through publishing Sabrina and Corina that I have been able to meet others who are telling me, my great grandma was a Gallegos. She grew up in the San Luis Valley. I'm also part Filipino. My great grandfather was a farm worker, just like, your family members. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, this is blowing my mind that it was hidden from me and that I didn't have access to this kind of unity before. To the major publishing world, people of color are not necessarily the traditional book buying market, which is absolutely nonsense. We're like OG storytellers. We love stories. We love books. You know what I mean? Like, they would market to us, we might love them even more. But I think it has to do with just dismissing us, dismissing us as a serious market, dismissing our talent, not thinking that our books are as viable or as important. Right. And that has to do with the mindset of who's reading it and who's making these decisions on the back end. So there's a lot of reasons, but ultimately it does come down to white supremacy.
Right. Ding, ding, ding.
As you know, when we do the third show, we do it together with myself and Melina Bobadilla. How are you?
What's up, Julio ×2? I'm doing great. I'm rocking my classic Virgencita shirt.
Nice.
Over here because I'm Santísima Niña Buena. Just kidding. I like the dialectic because I'm Niña Mala. I'm really excited for our guests. Happy it's Thursday.
You just made the clip of the highlights with that. That's going to be, I think we have to be like, Niña Mala. That should be the start of the clips. But he is just one of the greatest souls I've ever met. Julio Salgado. My heart is pitter-pattering right now. How are you?
Oh my God. Hi, y'all. How y'all doing?
Hi.
How would you define yourself now? What is your bio?
¿Quién eres tú?
Yes. ¿Quién eres tú, Julio Salgado?
Sí. Claro, sí. Pues mira, ahorita. Who am I? So I am, I'm an artist, first and foremost. It's taken me many years to really, say that and be like, I am an artist.
Own
But
it, yeah.
I'm an artist, and who happens to be undocumented, and who happens to be very queer. And those things have informed the work that I've done in the past couple of years. And I'm a Virgo, so those are three important things you should know about me. I'm a Virgo.
But you said let's take a moment to at least acknowledge what happened today. So I'm going to give you this moment, Julio Salgado, about what did it mean to you? Like, what happened when you heard it, and how has the mood been throughout the day?
We were all sort of like, I mean, I know my circle of friends, our circle of documented friends, we were just like, it's not gonna happen. It's, I feel like I was ready to, and I kind of been, whenever I've been in spaces where I talk to younger folks, I can only share my experience, right? I don't speak on behalf of anybody, but I'm like, look, I lived in a world without DACA. And yes, it was hard. Can we curse? I don't know if we curse.
So much. Fuck yeah, let's go. Believe me, after my day, after DACA and my day, I can curse in any language right now. But continue.
And so one of the things that I always would tell younger folks, it was just like, hey, look, it was hard, it was tough, but I think if anything, I've learned from being around organizing spaces, being around badass activists and organizers, is that we are not alone, right? Like this idea of coming out of the shadows really came out of coming out of the closet, and like the more the better. And so today when I woke up 7 in the morning and saw the 7 in the morning Pacific time.
Yeah, so you were waking up to the decision because it was at 10 o'clock on Eastern time. Yeah.
And the first post that I saw was from Yosimar, who was like, he had the emoji thing, like, and I was like, oh my God, what happened? So I look and it said, and I was like, wow, okay, so we got 2 more years, and really get understanding what that means.
I would say that, Melina, I would call Julio Salgado sort of a spirit being of the undocumented community, an artist, not a legal expert.
Del movimiento.
That's a nice way of saying
a torchbearer.
Chismoso.
And chismoso, yes.
You should look at our DMs. Oops.
What I heard is that like for now we're good, and there's still like DACA can still be be taken away again.
Yeah.
But definitely for sure, one of the things that I posted is that let's enjoy this moment. Let's enjoy this piece of paper, because at the end of the day, it was this piece of paper that we got. It's bittersweet because it's like, with everything that is going on right now, and that has been going on for the many years. And I'm talking about, the call out from the Black Lives Matter movement, the understanding of what that means as a movement, right? Like a lot of the times, we forget that the anti-blackness that is real I've seen DACA groups that, oh my God, the language that people use, with talking about people, out there and protest. It's just like, do you know that in order to get DACA stuff done, people had to do sit-ins, bug people, protest, and so
people all forget that. If it wasn't for the direct action, DACA would have never happened.
Nady Dominguez from LA. Yeah, Nady, I love her, but she kind of broke it down in terms of like, look, there were people who had meetings with the White House, and we were pushing and saying that, look, the president can do this. There was law professors that signed on, and while that was happening, on the there was activists who were seen as radical people who were taking over Obama's office.
When we talk about any sort of radical change, revolution, the movement, dismantling, deconstructing, I think that it's absolutely imperative that we highlight the contributions of artists and how important it is, not just in terms of like beautification, which is its own power in terms of like mental and spiritual wellness, right? To really make the movement irresistible, right? I think it was Tony K. Bambara that said the goal of the revolutionary artist is to make the revolution irresistible.
Damn, you're like dropping
know?
quotes and
I have a
everything. Like
sweatshirt,
Julio
I'm not gonna
Salgado
lie.
and I are like, damn, she's dropping quotes. I was like, boom, Melina.
I'm not gonna lie. It was my first sweatshirt that I bought when I was an undergrad in Berkeley. I was like,
Okay, because I was
must buy
like,
woke clothing.
I didn't feel like I belong in the art world. You know, like I felt like, you know, the work that I was studying was I understood that we needed to study this like white dudes and the influence that I had in art, but I'm like I don't see myself in the art. And sure, I had a cliche Latinx artist is gonna name Frida Kahlo as one of the first people that we saw inspired us. But I was like, this is not for me. And not just that, but like if you're trying to be an art student, it's hella expensive. So it was actually, it was journalism that really shaped me because I ended up, switching my majors to journalism, and I ended up, joining the school newspaper and becoming, very active in doing editorial cartoons, and I really that was my training. That was my training. I was drawing every day.
I know there's folks in our community, in the wider like Mexican Latinx community that are like very Catholic, very religious. So they might be all like immigration this, immigration that. But like, I'm feeling some type of way and I'm feeling uncomfortable when I see an image like this. And it's like, no, this is a challenge.
So what do you got?
To you, the viewer, and your fucking patriarchy.
I'm talking about the immigration movement was very heavily Catholic and religious. They were very down for immigration, and you were also kind of like, don't talk about the gay stuff because then you're not concentrating on the issue. Similarly, in the queer spaces that I was part of, all they wanted to talk about was gay marriage and joining the military.
Right.
And like, what about, queer and trans people who are in detention center? And so it was really, bringing light into some of the issues that were, we were part of as, two-dimensional characters, right? And so
I'm really just happy that you're here. Yeah. And like I said, we turn 10 years next year, and I'm definitely, through Futuro Media, I want to reach out to you because I think you would be the perfect artist for the 10-year anniversary of Latino Rebels, because you saw it from the beginning, and here we are as a bookend. Thank you so much for being on. We love you a lot. Stay in touch. Enjoy DACA Day, right? I don't know. Enjoy today. Take a moment. Take a moment today. So thank you again, Julio. Bye, guys.